how to install WordPress on an existing Kubernetes K8 cluster on DigitalOcean and add a domain name. If you haven't watched my previous video on how to create a Kubernetes cluster on DigitalOcean, then you should do so. I'll put a link to that video in this video description below and as a card at the top right hand corner of this video. So once you've created your Kubernetes cluster, go to your DigitalOcean dashboard and to the overview tab of your K8 cluster. I have a Kubernetes cluster called K8-test. In this video demonstration, I'm going to be installing a DigitalOcean Marketplace one-click install app, and I'm going to be installing WordPress in this example. First, we'll need to go to the Marketplace and see a list of all the apps. To do this, look for the Marketplace tab and click on it. Once here, you can either click on the search box and search for the app that you want. If you don't know exactly what one-click app you want to install, you can simply scroll down all the way to the bottom to where you see where it says Explore All Solutions in Marketplace and click on it. A new tab will then open, taking you to marketplace.digitalocean.com. This link will be in the video description below for your convenience. Once you're here, under Solution Categories, look for where it says Kubernetes. At the time of recording of this video, there's currently 51 Kubernetes apps that you can install on your Kubernetes cluster. Click on Kubernetes. Find the one-click install app that you're looking for. In my case, for this video demonstration, I'm going to be installing WordPress-Kubernetes. Once hovered over, you can click on See Details to get further details about the app in question, or you can simply click on Install App. I'm going to click on Install App as I want to install WordPress on my K8 cluster. Now I'll need to select a cluster to install this app on. Choose to install WordPress Kubernetes on a new cluster or an existing cluster. Now I'm going to be installing WordPress Kubernetes on an existing cluster that I made in my previous Kubernetes video. It is important to note that a minimum of 2 nodes is required to prevent downtime during upgrades and maintenance. Select an existing cluster or a new cluster. So I'm going to click on this drop down arrow here and I'm going to select my only existing Kubernetes cluster called K8-test. So I'm going to click on it to select it. Once done, click on Install. WordPress will then begin installing on your Kubernetes cluster. I'll be back once WordPress has been installed. Alright, I'm back, and as you can see, WordPress Kubernetes has been installed on our K8 cluster, and we've got installed the latest version. If you look above, your one-click app can be configured using kubectl and managed with Helm. We're going to be using both of these to manage our WordPress Kubernetes cluster. In my previous video, I set up a droplet to set up my Kubernetes cluster, and I'm going to use this droplet once again to configure WordPress Kubernetes on our Kubernetes cluster. We're going to start off by installing Helm and followed by kubectl. We'll then check if WordPress is running on our Kubernetes cluster, then we'll check the IP address of our WordPress site, followed by the admin password to log in. Just to note, you don't need to use a droplet to configure Helm and kubectl. You can simply install the Kubernetes command line tool called kubectl on your local PC, such as your Windows PC, Mac, or Linux PC. I'm going to be using a cloud server just because that's how I set up my K8 cluster in the previous video, and it will be easier for someone that has watched the previous video to follow. So to begin, I'm going to open up my PuTTY terminal window, which is my SSH PuTTY terminal window, and then I'm going to type in my first command. So we're going to install Helm, so type snap space install space Helm. Once you've typed this in, hit enter on your keyboard. Just to let you know, all commands typed in this video demonstration will be in the video description below, so you can just copy it and paste it in the terminal window for your convenience. So if we want to proceed, we need to repeat the command including -- classic. So I'm going to type snap space install space Helm space -- classic. Once you've typed this in, hit enter on your keyboard. Okay, so Helm has been installed. Now let's check if WordPress Kubernetes is running on our cluster. So type helm space ls space -n space WordPress. Once you've typed this in, hit enter on your keyboard. And as you can see, we can see our WordPress Kubernetes, and the namespace is called WordPress. Revision is 1. It's been updated at the following date. Its status is deployed, and you can see the chart and the app version. This confirms that WordPress is installed and running on our Kubernetes cluster. Next, let's install kubectl. Type the following command, snap space install space kubectl. Once you've typed this in, hit enter on your keyboard. And again, we'll need to repeat the command including -- classic. So I'm just going to type it in again. Snap space install space kubectl space -- classic and hit enter on your keyboard. Okay, so kubectl has now been installed on our droplet. Now we're going to need to check the IP address of our WordPress site. We'll need this to access our WordPress site. Type the following command, kubectl space get space svc space -n space WordPress. Once you've typed this in, hit enter on your keyboard. Look to where it says WordPress Kubernetes and then look for external IP And as you can see, the IP address of our WordPress site is 157.230.201.206. This will be different for your WordPress Kubernetes site or whatever application you have installed on your Kubernetes cluster. Just to note, in case you encounter this, in the external IP address section, you may not just see a simple IP address of your WordPress Kubernetes. You may see an IP address followed by a comma and then a bunch of numbers and maybe letters. If you encountered this, what you want to do is take the IP address of your WordPress Kubernetes as everything before the comma. So in this case, displayed on your screen here, the IP address would be 167.99.28.56. Now that I've explained this, let's continue with the step-by-step tutorial. So I'm going to highlight the IP address of our WordPress site. This will then copy it to my clipboard, and then I'm going to open up a text editor, create another tab here. For a new text document, I'm going to right-click and click on Paste. You can save the IP address of your WordPress Kubernetes or whatever Kubernetes app you have. You can save it locally wherever you want. I'm just choosing a text editor for convenience. Next, what we'll need to do is grab the command to reveal the password for the admin account on our Kubernetes WordPress site. To do this, go back to your browser to be taken back to the DigitalOcean Marketplace tab of your Kubernetes cluster. Look for the app you have just installed, which in my case is WordPress Kubernetes. Navigate to the 3 horizontal dots and click on them. Then click on Get Started Instructions. Scroll down, look for where it says Extract the Credentials. To see the admin, that must mean admin password for your WordPress site. So copy the command below by highlighting it all the way to where it says Decode. Right click on it and click on Copy. Just to note again that this command will be in the video description below. Once you've copied it, open back up your terminal window, right click to paste and hit enter on your keyboard. Look to the bottom left hand side to where you see root and copy the password. So my password starts with capital J and ends in 5, just before the word root. So I'm just going to highlight it all to copy it to my clipboard. I'm going to open back up my notepad and I'm just going to paste it in on a separate line here. So let's label everything a bit better here so we know what we're dealing with. So the list of numbers at the top here is the IP address and the alpha numerals below it is my password. Now that we've got the IP address of our WordPress Kubernetes site and the password of our WordPress Kubernetes site, we can close out of our terminal window. So I'm just going to click the X here and I'm going to click on OK, as we no longer will be dealing with terminal. Next, go back to your browser underneath the command you just copied to where it says open a web browser and navigate to the WordPress admin panel using the following URL address. So it's http:// your WordPress IP/admin. So I'm just going to copy this link here by highlighting it, right clicking and clicking on copy to copy it. I'm going to go back to my notepad here. Just going to go on a separate line and I'm going to click paste. I'm going to copy the IP address of my Kubernetes cluster and I'm going to delete WordPress_IP. So I'm just going to delete everything from the $symbol to IP. I'm going to right click and I'm going to click on paste. So your link should look exactly like this, except with your Kubernetes WordPress IP address instead. So it should be something similar to this: http:// in my case, it's 157.230.201.206/admin. So I'm just going to highlight it all. I'm going to right click and click on copy. I'm going to go back to my browser. I'm going to open up another tab and I'm going to right click and click on paste and then hit enter to navigate to the admin login page of my WordPress app running on my Kubernetes cluster. For the username, it's going to be admin and that's going to be the same for everybody. And then for the password, I'm going to open up my notepad here and I'm going to copy my password. I'm going to highlight it and click on copy, open up my browser, right click and paste in my password. I'm going to check mark remember me and I'm going to click on login. And there we go. We have successfully logged into our WordPress site as admin. Now you can begin configuring and customizing your Kubernetes WordPress site. Now, if you want to see what visitors see when they navigate to your WordPress site, you can just visit your site by hovering over user blog and then clicking on visit site. I'm going to right click on visit site and open a new tab. And if I go to the tab, this is exactly what people will see when they navigate to your WordPress site. You can see the link to navigate to this site is going to be http:// and then your WordPress IP address without the /admin. Okay, so our WordPress website is up and running. We've logged into admin. You can then begin customizing all your WordPress site. I'm not going to go through the customization of your WordPress site in this video demonstration, but I am going to show you how to add a domain name to your WordPress site. So instead of people having to navigate to your IP address of your WordPress site running on your Kubernetes cluster, they can just simply type in, for example, websplaining.com. So first, you'll need to buy a domain name if you don't already have one. Open up another tab and navigate to the following URL address. This URL address is my referral link to Namecheap. As a newcomer buying your first domain name on Namecheap, you'll get a discount of 57% for a .com, 13% off for a .net, and 42% off for a .org. You can scroll down to see all the TLDs and the discounts available when using my referral link. I'll put my referral link, this one right here, in the video description below so that you can click on it for your convenience. Once you're here, search for the domain name that you want. So I'm just going to type the domain name Websplaining in here, and then I'm going to click on search. You'll then see if the domain name that you want is available, and if it's not available, you'll get a list of alternative TLDs. Now the .com is not available because I own it. However, .net is available, so I'm just going to add this to my cart, the .net. Click on checkout, then click on confirm your order, and then Namecheap will want you to create a Namecheap account. Once you've done that, add your billing details and confirm your purchase. Now I'm not going to buy this .net as I already own websplaining.com. If you want a step-by-step video on how to buy a domain name on Namecheap, I'll put a link in the video description below to one of my videos which will take you through the step-by-step process. I'll also put it as a card at the top right-hand corner of this video. Okay, so I'm just going to close out of this tab, and I'm going to go to my other tab here, which is what you'll see when you've bought a domain name and logged into your Namecheap account. Once you're here, you'll be in the dashboard, but you want to click on the domain list on the left-hand side here. In your domain list, find your domain name. In my case, it's websplaining.com, and click on Manage. By default, when you purchase a new domain name, your name servers will be pointing to Namecheap's basic DNS. You want to change this to custom DNS, so click on this arrow and click on Custom DNS. Now you'll need to add the name servers of DigitalOcean. To do this, go back to one of your DigitalOcean tabs that you have open, and then click on the green Create button. Once you've done that, look for where it says domains/DNS. This will route your existing domains, so just click on it. So now we're in networking, and you can see that on the left-hand side here. Click on Domains tab. In here, you'll need to enter the domain name you just purchased. So I'm going to enter websplaining.com. You won't need to select a project here, as you'll only have one project. In my case, I have two, but I'm going to be choosing tutorials. You won't need to choose between projects. The tutorials project is something I have labeled myself, and it's where my WordPress Kubernetes cluster has been deployed. So I'm going to be adding this domain in here. Click on Add Domain. Okay, so my websplaining.com domain has now been added in the tutorials project. Next, scroll down until you see where it says DNS records. And as you can see, we have 3 name servers here and 3 values. Each of these values has to be copied and pasted into the name servers section on our custom DNS on Namecheap. So let's start off by copying ns1.digitalocean.com. So I'm just going to click on copy here. I'm then going to go back to Namecheap, and I'm going to right click and paste in the first name server without the full stop. So I'm just going to delete the full stop here. I'm going to go back to the DNS records again on DigitalOcean, and I'm going to copy ns2 and back again to Namecheap and right click and paste in the second name server. I'm then going to click add name server to give some space for ns2 to be pasted in here, and I'm going to go back to DigitalOcean DNS records and click on copy for ns3, and then finally back to Namecheap, right click and click on paste. Make sure you delete the full stop for each of these. So I just deleted the full stop for ns2 and ns3, and then all that's left to do is to click on the check mark to save the changes you have just made to your name servers. So as you can see, it says DNS server update may take up to 48 hours to take effect. If it's a brand new domain name that you just purchased during this video demonstration, it won't take that long for your newly bought domain name to propagate to your WordPress Kubernetes IP address. Now what we'll need to do is go back to our DNS records on DigitalOcean, and we're going to need to direct a host name to the IP address of our WordPress Kubernetes. To do this in here, you can either type @ which means websplaining.com, as you can see at the bottom here, will direct to, click on this text box and look for the IP address of your Kubernetes cluster. In my case, it's 157.230.201.206, so I'm going to click on this to select it. And just to go back to the host name, if you were, for example, to remove the @ and type www. You can see that in fact you'll direct www.websplaining.com to your WordPress Kubernetes IP address. So if somebody types www.websplaining.com in their browser, it will direct them to your WordPress Kubernetes IP. I like to keep things simple, so I'm just going to delete www and I'm going to type @ as I want them simply to type websplaining.com, as it's much easier. Once you've done that, click on create record. And there we go, our A record has been created and added to our DNS records. I actually didn't mention when we were creating the A DNS record that you have to make sure you're on the A record type, as there are other record types here that you can select from. However, by default, you'll most likely be an A record, hence why the A record was created when we added in the required host name and selected a resource or a custom IP address. Okay, so now let's test this. So I'm just going to copy the host name, which is websplaining.com, to our clipboard. Now previously, websplaining.com had my personal site on it, and I had a HTTPS SSL certificate on it previously. So because I haven't deleted the cache on my browser, it's always going to direct me to the HTTPS site instead of HTTP. So I'm going to have to open up an incognito site. However, you won't need to do that. You can simply just click on a new tab here and go to your site. But in my case, if I want to go to the HTTP site of my domain name's host name, I'll need to go incognito mode. So I'm just going to click on the 3 vertical dots and I'm going to click on new incognito window. I'm going to type http:// and then I'm going to right click and click on paste to paste in my host name. So for example, your host name could also be www.websplaining.com or any other host name that you added to your DNS records. I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. Now, if you're using Google Chrome like myself, you might see this message because you don't have an SSL certificate for HTTPS and this web page says doesn't support a secure connection. You are seeing this because this does not support HTTPS. So I'm going to click on continue to site and there we go. http://websplaining.com takes us to our Kubernetes WordPress site. And again, if I want to log into the admin page of our website, I can just go back to the very top of the address bar, type /admin, and then hit enter on my keyboard. I'll then be taken to the admin page of my Kubernetes WordPress site. And as you can see, the domain name is much cleaner than just seeing an IP address. So I'm just going to grab the password once again. So it's already highlighted. So I'm just going to right click and click on copy to copy my password again. I'm then going to open up my incognito browser. I'm going to type admin and then right click in password and click on paste, remember me, and click on login. And there we go. We have logged in as admin to our Kubernetes WordPress site using our domain name in the address bar. You can now begin configuring your WordPress site. So that pretty much concludes this video on how to install the WordPress app on an existing Kubernetes K8s cluster on DigitalOcean and adding a domain name using the Namecheap domain name registrar. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, comment down below, and most importantly of all, subscribe to support the channel. I'll see you on the next video.